Good morning and welcome to Wendy Wednesday. To our Hebrew Home residents who are watching this right now at the first broadcast at 10:30, we apologize. We're aware that we're having some technical difficulties, so I might seem a little fuzzier than usual. I might sound a little fuzzier than usual, and you may not hear me at all, which, I don't know, some people might feel good about. I'm not quite sure about that, but we are aware, we are sorry, we've called the repairman, and hopefully we will get this resolved before tomorrow's broadcast. But if you do want to watch the show in its entirety where you can hear it, just tune in tonight on channel 88 at 6:30 and you'll be able to hear everything. It's just that the live broadcast is having some issues, so we do apologize. And because you can't really hear everything, we didn't want to and it's probably very frustrating for you. We have our special Guess What's in the Jar. We had it all ready for today, but I'm going to hold it until next week just so that we can have the live call-ins and so that you have the full experience. So it's a good one, what I filled in with the jar. I won't tell you. It'll be a surprise, but tune in next Wednesday. It's not chocolate. It's not edible. That's about the only hint that I'm going to give you, but it's good. So like I said, tune in next Wednesday. We'll do another giveaway. That'll be lots of fun. And again, apologies for technical difficulties. So I asked the crew here if they wanted to hear about my woes of last night. I don't know if you want to hear about my awful evening, but I figured we always keep it real here. We always tell you what's going on in our lives. So here's the latest that happened to me. So I was home last night with my family. And this is the joys of being a homeowner, which I'm sure many of you can appreciate. So we turn on the faucet, and there's very little pressure, right? So I'm like, okay, that's not good. So then I have my family check all the faucets, right, in all the house, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, and they're all like trickling. So I'm like, oh no, what could it be? And I love my husband, but he's not handy. He doesn't get his hands dirty. He doesn't even change a light bulb. I still love him, but like he's not handy. So like, okay, I cannot look to my husband for support with this. So I'm like, okay, let's just see what happens. So my poor son, he's like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I use the toilet? I'm like, okay, just use it, but use it quickly and let us know if there's any explosions in there. And then we go to sleep, and 1 o'clock in the morning, my husband wakes me up and says, there's a flood in the basement. I'm like, oh no, there's a flood. I hate that. It's always my worst nightmare, like floods in the basement. So we go downstairs at 1 in the morning. My son wakes up, we're going down, and it's a mess. Everything, there's water everywhere. And we're like, okay, so now what do we do? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Who are we going to call? So, of course, I go on my phone. I look up a 24/7 plumber. I call him up. I'm like, we've got water in the basement. We don't know. Is it the water softener? Is it the water heater? Like, why is this happening to us at 1 in the morning? And he's like, well, I'm really busy right now. I cannot do anything for you. Just go to sleep. I'm like, well, is anything bad going to happen in the 6 hours that, like, I'm leaving it alone? And you know, my son's like, oh, let's just get some towels. We're like, no, it's way beyond towels. So we're like, okay. So of course I could not go back to sleep again after that. It was like, oh my goodness, what is going on in my basement? What is the damage? How much is it going to cost? So I woke up. Everything was still in one piece, but everything was still wet. And our detective work, we did trace it back to, because of course my husband was afraid to go into the boiler room. I'm like, okay, let's just see what's going on in there. And so we opened up the door and the noise was coming from the boiler. So I'm like, okay, well, so we either have to pay for a new boiler or hopefully it can get fixed. So we figured out why it was wet, so now we have all the repercussions to deal with in terms of the big fans that they got to bring in because you don't want to have mold and getting it repaired. So that's what's happening in my house right now is this afternoon everything will get repaired. So that is my very long story about my woes of last night. Did I get any sympathy? Do I have any sympathy from the viewers?
I have some good news.
Oh, Olivia's got some great news.
Said audio and video is perfect.
Oh, so you heard everything. So I could have had my jar of surprises. Oh, boy. David Finkelstein, if you want to run up and get it. Allison is a trooper. Okay, Allison's running up to get the jar. It's right in my office on my little table.
Is your door open?
Yes. Okay, so that's exciting news. I guess I should have brought the jar. But okay, so that's the wrap-up of my story of last night. Has anybody ever had water in their basement? I'm sure if you had lived in a house, you must have. So I'm a little groggy this morning, so forgive me. So why don't we do this? Let's get to our regularly scheduled information and news. It's sunny today. It's a high of 78. It's actually really beautiful outside. I hope you get to spend some time outside. The whole week has been just beautiful fall weather, so I can't wait to see the leaves change in colors across the way in the Palisades. It's my favorite time of year. So we're going to get the jar. I do want to give a shout out to Sylvia Sutton. Congratulations to her for getting all those chocolates last week. Sylvia, I'm curious, did you eat them all? Did you share? Is there anything left? I know if I had gotten 92 chocolates, I'm not sure how long they would have lasted, but I hope you're enjoying them. And we're excited that you called in and that you won our first guessing game prize. So we're going to bring the jar here so you can play it again with us now that we know that everything is functional. So that's great. The number is, was it 1526, we think? 1526. So just sit tight, okay? The jar is going to be here like in 3 minutes. 1526, and that will be the guessing game, okay? So sit tight. That is coming. So let's do the rest of the show while we're waiting for that. Again, remember 1526, okay? And as a reminder, whoever is closest to the correct number will win them. If there is a tie, then we'll split the insides of the jar with whoever got the winning number. And we go with the closest that's below the correct number. So if you're over the number, you get disqualified. Sorry. So 1526. So while we await the jar, we're going to start with the news of the day and tell you about what we're serving for lunch today, which is chicken asabuco with a baked potato and pears for dessert. Hope you enjoy that. And for dessert, we're serving 4 bean soup with baked ziti. And zucchini medley and sponge cake for dessert. So those both sound like really yummy meals. We hope you enjoy. September 23rd in history. In 1845, the first baseball team ever was organized. And you know, their name was the New York Knickerbockers, which I thought was interesting because now we have the basketball team, the New York Knicks, but it was actually also the first baseball team. In 1962, ABC's first color television series was broadcast, and that was The Jetsons. Do you remember The Jetsons? His boy Leroy and Elroy was the dog, I think. Anyway, that was a very fun broadcast. That was the first one. And then in 1957, That'll Be the Day by Buddy Holly and the Crickets. That reached #1. And interestingly, today is Dear Diary Day. Did any of you ever have a diary? I don't think I ever had one. If I did, it must have been very short-lived and very not memorable. But it is Dear Diary Day. So Allison has joined us with our jar. Thank you so much, Allison. Okay, here is today's jar, and it is filled with shampoos and conditioners. Okay, so here is our jar. This is the jar of shampoo and conditioner. It's something everybody could use, right? And why don't you start giving it a guess? You could win them. 1526, you just have to give us a call. 1526, and these shampoos and conditioners could be yours. I'm doing my Vanna White, my QVC impression now. So how many shampoos and conditioners do you think are in here? It's stuffed to the max. So take a look. If you'd like shampoo and conditioner on the house, see what you think about this jar, okay? And we will continue with the news while everybody is thinking and plotting and planning. The Heber Home resident celebrating a birthday today, Harriet. She's a frequent caller to our show. Happy birthday, Harriet. We hope you're watching today. Geraldo H. and John H. They're celebrating a birthday today as well. We actually don't have any staff birthdays today, but we have some celebrities who share this birthday. Augustus Caesar, Typhoid Mary, Ray Charles, and Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen is turning 71 today. Can you believe the boss is 71? Do we have any Springsteen fans watching today? He was actually the very first concert I ever attended. I went with my brother, and I remember it was quite a show. So happy birthday, Bruce. Your birthday horoscope says the message of your birthday chart is that you need to focus on your own interests more and let other people worry about what's going on in the wider world. It's not selfish, it's sensible, and the world might be a better place if more people did the same. So that's your birthday horoscope. Our interview segment today is pre-taped with RiverWalk resident Rose Sterling. And Rose is 102 years young, and she's got a birthday coming up in a few months. And we selected Rose because she is a centenarian. And yesterday was actually Centenarian's Appreciation Day. So let's take a look at the video and get to meet and know Rose. So can you start, Rose, and just say your name and where you live and your age?
Rose Geller Sterling. I'm 103. And I don't know what is there to say. I'm living here. My conception of time. I'll have to ask my son how long I'm here. Because he found the place and he looked very vigilantly and seemed to find that this place was more satisfactory on the surface anyway, and it's proving to be very comfortable for me.
Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Akron, Ohio. I lived in Chicago, Illinois until I was about 9 and a half. Then we moved to New York. And I lived there for quite a while until I moved to New Jersey, where I lived for over 60 years and raised my children, my 2 boys.
Where in New Jersey?
Near New Brunswick, Piscataway, New Jersey, right near Rutgers University.
I live in Bergen County.
Oh, well, that's a little distant away, but it's Jersey.
Jersey, right.
Yeah.
And did you work?
Yes, I was a teacher. I taught 11th grade English, and I was always busy with something anyway. My boys didn't occupy all my time, though they were a considerable influence in my life.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I lost my husband much sooner than I would have liked, about 25 or so years ago, 25, 26 years ago.
What do you feel is the secret to your longevity?
It isn't a secret. I mean, first of all, my mother lived to 107. She was a remarkable woman. I couldn't begin to compete with her or compare with her even. And so I guess it's not that difficult if you've got a mother who lived that long for you to. Though my grandparents did not. But of course, I won't even say that it was the circumstances of my mother's life, because she lived a very hard life. She worked very hard all her life. I can't say the same for myself. I mean, these days where you're not just required to, it doesn't take that much effort to get along.
So how do you stay busy now?
Well, I socialize, I read a lot. I mean, reading has always been my mainstay. So you're never bored if you have something good to read.
And you look like you're in terrific shape. You must exercise too. You look great.
Oh, I do attend all the classes. I mean, I've always, I'm not a jock. I mean, I'm not an athlete, though I can handle myself. And I, don't avoid exertion, physical exertion. I seek it out, in fact.
What advice do you have for others to live healthy?
Well, I guess I maintain a pretty good diet. I mean, I love sweet things and all that, but I don't overindulge. least not me. And I was brought up by a mother who was very nutrition conscious. And so I guess I continued in that vein. So I think I eat pretty much the right things.
And do you have any hobbies that you like to do?
I think in terms of having hobbies. I mean, I do a lot of reading, and I like to speak to people. I mean, if they interest me or they are interested by me. I, do a certain amount of exercise and all that, but nothing exceptionally outstanding.
And you had mentioned that you think people are living longer these days. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that they're probably more health conscious than they were at one time. And of course your background has a lot to do with it too. I mean, I come from very sturdy stock. Apparently, as I say, my mother lived to 107. And, I mean, I didn't admire her in every way, but she was a very admirable woman. I mean, she did her own thing, like it or not. And, but she was really remarkable, and, I mean, she set me a very good example.
One of the things we try to do is have people think differently about what it means to grow older. Because there's
Why do you have to think differently?
No, because there's so many stereotypes that when you reach a certain age,
Yeah, but I have an example of my mother, so I don't take that attitude. She was very vital, very interested in everything, and...
So what would you say to a young person who thinks that way?
Oh, thinks that everything is over? Well, I mean, you don't make yourself over. I mean, if you're that type of person, getting older, I think you're less likely to get that much older if you don't take interest in life and don't feel it's important or that you have anything to learn or experience. It doesn't happen, inadvertently. But as I say, I have a good example.
What do you do to stay positive and keep a good outlook?
I don't know. I sometimes wish that I could put an end to it all, to be perfectly frank. There are times, but in the main, I've been fortunate. I have two wonderful sons, and I have a couple of wonderful grandchildren, and so I'm appreciative of that.
That's great.
I mean, there is a lot to be thankful for in our lives, despite the hardships and some of the disappointments and all of that. But in the main, it's a positive experience.
I have 4 kind of silly questions to ask you, just silly stuff. One is, what's your favorite food? If you could eat anything?
I love food. I love eating. But I don't know. I've been brought up a lot on salads.
Because of your mom?
Yeah, my mother was very nutrition conscious. And so...
You said you like a good sweet. Do you have a favorite sweet that you like to eat? Chocolate, candy?
I really try to avoid that. I mean, because it's, I know how bad it is for you.
Right.
But I indulge every once in a while. I don't deprive myself.
Do you have a lucky number?
No, I don't believe in stuff like that. That's not my style.
If we were going to make a big movie about your life, what actress would you want to portray you? Do you have a favorite actress?
Well, as I was growing up, I loved Sylvia Sidney, and you would probably not even know about her.
Tell us, who is she?
She's an actress that's no longer alive. But in the main, I love the theater. I love movies. I love the theater, and I went quite a bit. So it's, but I can't think of anybody that particular that I would But as I say, as a kid, when I felt I could without. Anyway, I did like Sylvia Sidney.
Okay. And, if you were not a person, if you were not human, what animal would you be?
I could never dream of being an animal. The human animal is enough for me.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was nice getting to chat with you.
It was a pleasure.
Our thanks to Rose for indulging us with an interview. We had a lot of fun chatting with her. So as I had mentioned, yesterday was National Centenarians Day, and did you know that scientists are increasingly finding that evidence that genes play an important role in pushing lifespan into the 90s and beyond? An extremely long lifespan is known to run in families, suggesting a genetic link. In developed countries, the prevalence of centenarians is about 1 in 6,000. Super centenarians, those who reach 110 years or more, are much rarer. Only about 1 in 7 million people around the world live this long. There's an old saying that goes something like this: if you live to be 80, it's more likely you'll live to be 100. There's some science to this, actually. Some people just don't seem to fall ill the way most folks do. Many centenarians are not marred by disease for decades, but rather seem to ward off afflictions until close to the end of their lives. And on average, centenarians can delay disease until the age of 93. Pretty impressive. And the majority of centenarians, 85%, are women, which we always knew that women are the stronger of the two, right? We always joke about that. Scientists don't know why women outlive men, but we do. And guess how many centenarians there are in the world? Do you think it's 2 million, 450,000, or 680,000? The answer is actually 450,000, which is a small number when you compare it to the 6.9 billion people living on the planet. Now, we did not get any takers for our shampoo and conditioner giveaway. So I don't know if that means that people don't want shampoo and conditioner, or maybe you don't like the brand of shampoo and conditioner that I selected, or maybe you're just not close to the phone today. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this and try it next week, and maybe I'll bring in an alternative to the shampoo and conditioner, and that way we'll know for sure if it's the shampoos, or maybe you just like to have chocolates like we did last week. So we'll bring it back next week and we'll see what we find out. So before we close the show today, we're just going to remind you about programming, which is that we have Bible study with Rabbi Noah at 11:15. We have Wellness with Deborah at 1:30. We have a concert with Larry at 2:30, and we will rebroadcast this, as we had said, tonight at 6:30 on Channel 88. So take care on behalf of everybody at Good Morning Hebrew Home. Enjoy the day, and we'll see you soon.